Welcome to the world of Jalara, where the people of Genesis Battle of Champions live. Our in-store gameplay community is growing. Visit GenesisBattleofChampions.com to find a local game store near you. Our list of international distribution partners continues to grow. Ask your local game store to contact one of these fine companies and have your store join our Play network. Visit GenesisBattleofChampions.com to explore the lore of the lands. There are chapters of lore that you can read, chapters of lore that you can watch, and there's also a helpful map where you can learn where all of the key characters in the next set live inside the world of Jalara.
ain't down, they just think they are. Another little wannabe gangster trying to play hard. They ain't down, they just think they are. Another little wannabe gangster trying to play hard. Free up the guys, then dip out the ends. Jump in the ride, then burn out the rims. Don't stop, don't coach, the boy that I'm in. Now we on the block with the up for events. Skin kept close, cause you plotting on them with the tits on 10. Back in the back, that's on tap, all ready to go and jump in. They ain't down, they just think they are. Another little wannabe gangster trying to play hard.
Tell me why I always need to survive off your love, your love. 'Cause every time you fire at me, it kills all the fun, kills all the fun. Every blink of an eye brings a new drop of blood from the sky, but I don't mind, 'cause the way that you lie makes me feel so alive, feel so alive. 'Cause the rhythm awaits, waiting for my bones to break, my bones to break.
Hey, I remember to turn my audio on. I'm always a couple seconds late, but I always think of it. Welcome to another wonderful episode of Beyond the Edge of Exile. My name's Jason, and joining me once again on my left, your right, it's the one and only Will the Thrill. Will, how are you this evening?
Okay, how are you?
I'm hoping I'm pretty good, and I'm hoping everybody out there can hear me, but I'm not sure if they can. So people are going to have to let me know because I see it light up when you talk. I don't see it light up when I talk.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I know. OBS, what are you going to do?
Constant. It's never really sure what's gonna happen, are we?
Okay, I think Ryan said I can. So I'm thinking that means Ryan can hear me speak and you speak. So if that's true, then great. We're actually off to a very good start. Tonight's a special episode, Will, for a couple of reasons. One, we're spreading our growth a little bit farther out into the interwebs tonight because tonight we're airing live on YouTube. We are, I believe we're on the old North of Exile Facebook. We're also live on Genesis Battle of Champions Twitch channel, which I
Oh, nice.
dusted the cobwebs off of that there. So I believe we're broadcasting over on Twitch. I've got some multi-channel chat going here. I've got two screens going on my end. This is a first for me. I had to upgrade to handle all the stuff that I'm doing now.
Nice.
Because it's just you and I for the foreseeable future. I've had to prepare myself to be able to do the Wheel of Names. So I've already got the list from last week's episode already loaded up and ready to give out some prizing for anybody who tuned in last week. They've got a chance of winning a booster pack of Invasion, our latest set. And then, of course, anybody who talks tonight in the chat, even if it's just a simple, hey, how are you? Whatever somebody wants to say in the chat, they're going to automatically get entered for a chance to win a booster pack just for coming out and joining us tonight while we talk about my personal favorite card game in the world. What's it called? Oh, yes, Genesis Battle of Champions. Will, what are we going to talk about tonight? What's the plan?
So I think we're gonna dive into champions and kind of a retrospective on where we've come from as far as like design and looking at like how do we see champions changing or how do we see champions evolving, I guess.
Yeah. We've also got a spoiler lined up for tonight. We picked one that might have some
Ooh.
rules questions kind of idea, or maybe it's just a little tricky. We thought it'd be a fun one for you to be here to talk about tonight
Oh,
because you're
oh,
kind of
great.
well, you're kind of the guy who designs many of the cards, if not most of them. So I believe this card's one that came out of the inside of your mind, which is appropriate since tonight's episode is called Inside Will's Mind. So as we talk about all sorts of fun Genesis related things. In the chat, I see Ryan's asking about Jeff. Jeff's just busy this summer. He's got parental obligations with kids doing very cool sports and activities, and he gets to be the chauffeur on Monday nights for a while. So nothing wrong with Jeff at all. He's doing quite well. He's just not available. So we swapped him out for a Will, which we're very grateful for to keep the action going. So I once again, well, I do definitely appreciate you coming out. It's always fun to chat with you in general, and it's even more fun when we have
Mm,
people watching live and getting in on the chat with us and picking
yeah.
your brain. So I think tonight's going to be a really fun episode. Before we get to the chat about the evolution of champion cards and their designing, what we'll do first, if you don't mind, is I'm going to swing over to the Wheel of Names so I can award the prize for whoever was watching last week that's going to win. We'll
You're
get
right.
that out of the
Yep,
way.
yep.
That way I can start a new list of names for this week's episode. So it's going to look a little fancy because now that I'm doing it myself on my end, let me see. Ta-da! We can still see Will. We didn't have to give up a face to fit a wheel on the screen, which
Oh,
is
I thought this was
cool.
my time to pick my nose and everything.
No, sorry. Yeah,
Oh,
you're on camera still. Everybody can see you. No pressure at all. I'm gonna do what Jeff does. I'm gonna shuffle up the names a few times first. We had a lot of people last week. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, about 14 entries for tonight. 14 people have a chance to win. Technically 13 because one of them is JC. JC tuned in last week. And for those of you who don't know, JC being one of our staff members, if his name comes up, we just add a second pack to the prize pool and we spin to win again. So if JC's name comes up first, somebody's going to win 2 packs tonight. Otherwise, we're going to be giving out a booster pack of Invasion to one of the lucky names on this list. And without any further ado, let's get a winner drawn from last week's video so that we can start building our list of names for this week. So I just have to, I think I just click it. So let me try this. First time. There we go. Who's it going to be? Lots of names, lots of names. Looks like Zachary, who I don't foresee. I don't know if you could hear that, but there's a little sound effect in the background now.
It didn't
Zachary.
come through,
Oh,
but
I didn't. That's too bad. It was like angels singing. So, Zachary has won a pack. Unfortunately, I know him, and I know some people that are friends with him, so I can make sure that that pack makes its way to him. So, Janice is watching
pretty
off
cool.
camera as well. So I'm sure she'll make a note to remind me that it was Zachary who won. Now I'm going to start removing names, and I'll switch back to our other camera for a second. Uh, there we go. That way I can start doing the new names and all that. Oh, Jenna says they heard the angel sound. That's cool.
Oh, right. I'm not part of the actual. Right. That makes sense. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
you're only connected through the our chat, not through the actual stream, so that does make sense. All right, so I'm going to start removing names. Do you feel like jumping into the chat about the evolution of champions right away, or would you rather reveal the spoiler and talk about that? What do you feel like doing first?
Well, let's dive into the champions, I guess, and we can start there and then save the spoiler for later. But
Okay.
um,
Do you
it's up
want to
to you,
start?
really.
I have all the champions we're going to be discussing tonight loaded up here. Do you want to start with the two oldest ones, the two newest ones? Was there
Let's
any ones in
go
particular you want to
oldest
go
to
with?
newest. Let's
Oldest to
go
newest.
oldest to newest.
All right, so give me 1 second here. I believe one of them would be. See, this is the one thing I screwed up. I knew my mouse accidentally dragged one of the cards to the wrong spot on the screen. I got to line it up so you can see both cards again. The two
Sure.
oldest ones, I believe, would be Fang and Long are the two oldest, I think.
For tonight, yes. So we're going to go through all the champions as a bit of like a mini series, and we're going to start going through each of the color pairings. So kind of giving a perspective. I wasn't always part of the design team at this time, but just sort of here's where things started, and here's where things were sort of established, and here's where I think we can go. And talking a little bit more, just sort of general, not specifics, not going too much into like gameplay or anything like that, but just like or deck building around them, but just sort of more surface level about design and yeah, what I think might happen with champions as we go into the future.
Okay, so you'll be able to see in just a moment, because you're on a couple second delay, you'll be able to see that Fang and Long are appearing on the screen.
Sure.
And once you're ready, you can go ahead and start. And I'm going to just start making a list of names. I'll be listening, but I may not. If you ask me a question, you may have to poke me, sort of.
More than once. So yeah, so we have Feng or Fong, depending on how you want to pronounce it, and then Long, which were some of the original 8 champions. So there was yeah, so these two, I mean, lore and everything like that is not really my forte when it comes to it, but looking at mostly at the design, famously, these two were what I would say were underplayed. Long was played quite a bit early on in like some of the alpha days, um, as his cure ability was pretty good, especially if you had like a giant scorpion at that point, or Baruchs were also very prevalent in the meta or in deck building. And you had bolt shot and other things. So we look at these two and we say, well, at that point in beta and alpha, Fong was 2 energy reduction in the colors that can play bolt shot. Um, this should be good, right? 25 health is a good amount of health. And then Long has 28 health is a good amount of health. But both of these seemed to suffer from, sort of a general, it wasn't played highly because there were just champions that were better, I guess. And there's definitely some strength in certain colors early on. So when we're looking at the past and we're looking at where champions are coming from, I think it's interesting here that we have two sort of the brother sister combo and all this type of idea. Fong is supposed to be our fighter brawler, whatever you want to say that, and Long is supposed to be our summoner mix. But now we see summoners that have at least 1 energy reduction, maybe not quite as much health as Long does here, and maybe a little bit more aura to represent that summoner. So Long can actually play a really interesting role. He could be up front with the 28 health, or he could be standing behind his summons and healing them. the 4 energy reduction, the 4 energy for the cure really took a hit as far because you could be paying 4 energy to play Bolt Shot, progressing in your game plan of beating your opponent, versus the 4 energy for healing, where something might have like end up taking out that summon anyways. So that's sort of what really hurt Long as far as how much he was played. There's still a lot of people who played him. I played him for a little while, especially once we got into like Rays and we saw Enraged Gorilla was in there for a bit. It was kind of an interesting build, and then the Lion Mane Rabbits that hopped around were really interesting inside of Long. But then what happened there was Long ended up not being as good a summoner as we saw Erica being, who was the third champion in these color pairings. Fong always was very good in limited. Like Fong was I always loved playing Fong in limited, like draft and sealed events. But again, the fire shield here, same idea. The four energy to prevent 1 damage versus using 4 energy to deal 4 damage always seemed to be lackluster, and at that time. So with these two, I mean, I would like to see what updates could be done. There's definitely thoughts around, bringing back old champions, which we've seen with Erica and Adara. So,
Seems like
maybe we see.
that seems like
Hmm?
a good time to ask the people watching the chat as well. Just hypothetically, while you're watching people, if you could have any old champion reprinted, who would it be and
Oh yeah,
why? I'd love to
nice.
get that kind of feedback from people. I'm always asking them questions like that. So sorry to interrupt, but please
No,
continue.
no. Yeah. So like these two, I think there's definitely ways. Maybe they come back, maybe they don't. We've seen progression of what do fighters really look like in as far as like if Fong was sort of like one of the first fighters, how do we iterate on that sort of archetype of a champion? And if Long was one of the first summoners, how have we iterated on that archetype? And I think both of these have seen a lot of like design going in different directions. Also, this is what they have fire attacks, which is not as bad as some. Some of the early champions have just basic attacks, so there's no real like if you look at Fong, you look at Long. Outside of the cure ability, you're not really driven to build the deck in any certain way. One of the interesting things about the old champions, was that they were very sort of what's the word? Like you were restricted to a colors that you could build with, but they were kind of blank as far as like they weren't pushing you in a direction to build. Whereas I think
Kind of
now,
vanilla, so to speak. Like you could go whatever way you wanted with them,
oh,
or
yeah, vanilla I guess is the term. Or yeah, you could go whichever way you want, right? Um, but now I think what we do when we're looking at champions is looking at how do we present either a very iconic sort of look or a specific style of champion, and then how do we make it so that the champion is really that centerpiece. So I'm choosing this champion, I'm choosing to be this character when I'm building this deck because of what they're representing or what they're doing to the game. Whereas I find Fong and Long kind of are both that, yeah, vanilla. The cure ability is definitely really cool. I think it's something that we can see in the future a lot, or eventually see in the future. And definitely, I mean, the style. I definitely like the artistic style, right? The big flaming blade with that Fong has, or like the I
yeah.
guess it's a dual wielded. Not sure what you call that exactly with Long, but um, I like the way that they look.
So what would you have changed about Long? I hear you saying that you like the cure ability, with the benefit of hindsight, because nobody knows when they're designing things how the future's going to go. Like, would you have maybe perhaps just made the cure ability a little stronger, like a 3 or something like that? Would that have been enough of a change? Or are there other stats you feel should have been tweaked a bit more as well?
So I think well, I mean, if we were to redo Long, I think there would be a sort of more in the direction of maybe tweaking the awareness a little bit, maybe giving it a unique awareness somehow to better utilize that cure ability, because the
Fair.
original version you have to like always rotate to kind of get the cure, but maybe if you it all depends like how we would want to present Long going into the future. Like if we wanted him to be more that behind the army kind of like general, kind of get through my army and then you have to like attack me, or do we want them to be more upfront where they can kind of do a cure ability off to the side, or something like that. So I think that is one area I would look at. I like the cure too. We're definitely exploring and looking at how life gain in Genesis can function overall.
Hmm.
But the other big thing for Long is he needs at least one energy reduction. I think
Oh,
that's sort of a staple for summoners. Summoners kind of have a blended stat line as far as their health, aura, and energy, unless they're doing something really specifically, you know, game modifying the game rules. Then they tend to not have at least a blended stat line.
the chat would seem to agree with you. Eric L had actually said the same thing that Long needs at least one energy reduction a couple minutes ago. So I don't know if you
Oh,
noticed
there you
that.
go.
I'll also take just a quick moment to say hi to some of the people who've joined the chat in the last few minutes, including Ed Tuck and, of course, Eric L. And then, in regards to the question I asked you a few minutes ago about for the people watching at home right now, if you could pick any champion to reprint again, Alana, which is actually Ryan using his relative's account,
Hmm.
Ryan says that Core is his favorite and he'd love to see Core get reprinted. And Core was probably my first favorite, I think, when I first got into the game because demons are pretty cool. Core had some really Core had some really great artwork.
Yeah.
So like I just even superficially as someone learning the game who didn't really know the difference between a powerful card and a weaker card at the time, Core just kind of was one of those cool dark looking characters that
Mhm.
I was drawn to right away. So I totally respect that. And then Cardboard Cohorts is saying about Fong being the one that they would love to see come back and get reprinted again, perhaps in an upgraded version. So that's cool. It's good to hear that because we're always listening to see what people are craving out there. And, feedback helps. So by all means, people keep sharing your ideas on what you'd love to see get reprinted because we're always listening.
Yeah, so this is where the Bellum and Thymos champions started, right? And so when these came out, these were, Bolt Shot was the big spell in Bellum. And that's really all Bellum had outside of maybe Holy Wall or yeah, that's pretty much it. Was Bolt Shot and Holy Wall were the
Yep.
two big things that Bellum had in the early days, right? And Thymos, you had your Baruch, you had your Ajna Tigers came out a little bit later, but you had your they had Jump at that point, Rampage Toss. So there was some high energy there. So what happened was with Long, without the energy reduction, the cards you wanted to play in Long cost so much energy that you had to make a decision between trying to cure or playing your cards, and you kind of couldn't do both. So it was definitely a tough one to try to navigate or pilot that deck.
Valid. Yeah.
So from here we went to Erica. I'm not sure if we have
Well,
Erica.
yeah. Would you like a second one brought up at the same time as Erica?
Yeah, we could do Erica and Tashir. That works.
Erica. I just gotta. Oh, sorry. I'm gonna have to line it up. It's gonna take me a second. Sorry.
No worries.
The behind the
Um,
scenes troubles of OBS not saving my settings. I just set these all up today, this afternoon too. I had all these images lined up right where they're supposed to go, but OBS just hates me, and that's fine.
So some of the things that are interesting that some pieces of that we are taking, like if we do present these, right, like we have Long as a warrior style, that is definitely inside of that subtyping. Long, we have that paladin sort of word there. Looking at classes are things that definitely on the behind the scenes are where I'm starting sometimes is looking at what is this character representing, what sort of style am I trying to like put a champion into, so that once people look at it and they see, okay, this is a fighter, this is a mage, this is an archer or whatever, that there is something thematic about how they play into that. So let me know when you have those two up.
Erica and Tashir, yeah, they should be up on the screen now.
Okay, So Erica was in Rays was the next. So it was a set of 4 champions that came out, and that's where Erica was presented, and that was our first 150 Aura champion that wasn't Nubia and um, Kendra. So there was no blue, so there was no threat of tsunami. There was no threat of um, playing. What was it at that point? Like chain lightning, gusts, chrono walkers were all these big aura
Yeah.
cards that Nubia and Kendra sort of were able to abuse because they had access to them. However, Erica did bring out a champion that had enough aura to play Purifying Wave. And Purifying Wave, for the longest time, was the only spell that sort of destroyed kind of our, board wipe esque style of card.
Hmm.
Um,
How do you
so
feel about
that
board
really,
wipes in Genesis?
so it's it's interesting. I think being a tactical, like board wipes are definitely a card game mechanic that we can't get away from because we are still a card game. But from a tactical point of view, it's sort of like a reset button.
Hmm.
So it's interesting. Like you can play it early to sort of slow down the game, but then your opponent can kind of like you know build back up because they have all access to all of their resources. If you play it too late and you kind of hold on to it, you can wipe them out and then maybe take the game back, but then that could maybe take a long time. So it's definitely an interesting mechanic inside of a tactical game, which is why I think originally we saw it at the HE slot, right? And being dual colored,
Yeah.
you could really only play it in certain decks. So Erica presented the best deck for Purifying Wave, and I really enjoyed playing Erica. I played it a lot. I'd play a Purifying Wave and Landslide deck, where basically you can control the board. You wait till they drop out a bunch of summons, then you would Purifying Wave. You would always have access to a summon through her ability there, which is the Baihu,
Hmm.
which at the original, Bayou was a 2/2 summon that was so you would exert Erica and pay 9 ore to get a 2/2, but it didn't come from your hand. It didn't come from your deck. It came from the subconscious. So basically creating a token similar to a token in other games, but this was an actual card that came into the arena. The 18 health always held her back. I found was the biggest downfall to Erica. Um, Having only 18 health meant that the colors that could pump out a bunch of damage were that much closer to winning. And we've seen that, and we saw that a lot with at that time. Um, Kun was so fast to get in, and it had access to all those big spells, Tsunami, Bolt Shot, um, and a few others in this set.
With the
And this
benefit of
really,
with the benefit of hindsight, do you think that that original version of Erica could have maybe had the health pushed a little bit higher without making it too game breaking, or did
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah?
I think the health could have been higher. I think the aura was great. I think maybe the potentially the well, I think as we'll see with our new version, the revamp version, we
Mhm.
decreased the cost for the conjure ability, and I believe we pumped up the health as well. So those are things that were the two things that we identified. I think as a mage or a summoner style, definitely the awareness was like a good spot, and the amount of aura was fantastic. So it really lended into a unique color pairing compared to so between the three that we had at that point, you had sort of a bunch of different styles. You had sort of a mage style, you had your warrior style, and you had like your summoner style. It's just that 18 health really held her back, or yeah, held Erica back and made it so that they just couldn't compete. Like Erica decks couldn't compete unless they were going first and unless they had a really good hand. And without any sort of filtering or any sort of way to keep up with the Axon decks, Erica just fell to casual gameplay.
So I think you did say though that you played a fair bit of Erica, did you not back then, or?
did, yes, and I still
So
do. One of my decks that I still have built that I never took apart is an Erica deck, and
what
modified it throughout the years. So
did you ever find a good way to deal with those issues? Like the issues against, say, specifically Kun, who's got the flying and can get in so fast,
um,
or did you always
I mean,
find them a
there are
difficult
things you
matchup?
could play. There are definitely cards you could play, but it would lean itself into a different build, which then you're sort of targeting just those specific builds, and then you kind of fall to anything that's not those builds. Sort
Right.
of. So she was. They were Erica decks were definitely in a weird spot where like
Was
um
anybody back at that point playing 2 out of 3 and using sideboards, or was that not really a thing yet at that point?
not at that point. Sideboards really came in at the end of Rays and into Origins.
Yeah, so I like that's where sideboards and best of 3 games would really help nowadays. Because for
Mhm.
a case like that where there are just some strictly bad matchups, it's nice to be able to try and have a chance to win games 2 and 3.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like and having access to Purifying Wave, those went into the sideboard, or you started them in your main board because it opened up so much space post game one, right? So if you had 5 Purifying Waves, that chunk of chi, if you take those out, you could put so many different varieties of cards, or you could upgrade lower cards to a higher chi. Um, so you could really adjust your deck a little bit um, going into game two.
So I've got another question for the viewers watching at home right now is lately on Saturday nights, we've been doing Genesis competitive tournaments at the store that I've been helping out at. And what the people at our stores have decided they really prefer is they enjoy best 2 out of 3 rounds. So we've been doing 55-minute rounds, best 2 out of 3. I'm just curious what other people who play at other stores, do they generally prefer to play a best of one with a shorter time limit, or do they generally prefer to play best 2 out of 3? And then I'd be curious to hear your answer, Will. If you're at a store playing in a tournament, especially if it's a competitive tournament, do you generally tend to prefer playing a best 2 out of 3, even if the rounds have to be a bit longer, or do you like the one and done kind of format?
So that definitely best 2 out of 3 is I think now that we have like forethoughts or our version of sideboarding, and as the card pool presents a lot of good sideboarding cards, I think best 2 out of 3 definitely get you your sort of your top tier competitive like gameplay. So you feel like yeah, I may have lost this game, but I have a chance second game, or I've lost 2 games, but maybe this match, next match, I'll be able to go in. When it was only best of one and you had no sideboards, you really had to decide. It was tough to play sort of a meta game because you weren't really sure. Every meta was sort of the little communities and the individual stores, and then you'd go to like a bigger sort of meetup, like a circuit or a championship or whatever, and then having to put in 50 cards to balance all of the decks. You never really knew what you're kind of getting and presenting.
Right. Over in the chat, Jeremy Heron points out correctly, going first or second makes such a big difference in Genesis 2. Even more so if you're going to play only one game. It could kind of be unfair sometimes, just because there is a big change between going first and second. And then David Clayton in the chat there just wanted to say, "Oh hey, Will." So you got to say "hey" back. Don't leave him hanging.
Oh, hey, David.
There you go. That's better.
So I actually with my Erica deck I was famously known for going second always with Erica.
Would that be uncommon?
To
Most people
choose
go
to go
first or second.
second,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
What was
So
the
it's
benefit for
most
you?
so mostly it was so that usually because that build wanted them to kind of like vomit out their hand, which at that point was sort of the go-to strategy was like if you had 3 Brooks, I'm gonna play all the 3 Brooks and just sort of make you deal with it, and then sitting with the Purifying Wave, you could respond right away.
Hmm.
Um, and then if you did happen to lose the first game, the choice to go first in the game two, and you had like the landslide package, you could basically exert them, hit them, exert them, hit them, exert them, hit them if you had sort of the right sequence of cards. But it's just interesting. Like, I mean, going first definitely there's definitely a huge advantage. But there are a few decks, depending on how you build it, that can compete going second. Um, the next iteration of this color pairing was Tashir,
Yeah.
and I really like Tashir. I really like Tashir's design. I like where Tashir is at as far as like stat wise. 22, 90, and 2 energy reduction is, it feels very, we're kind of being a little more agile. We have to be careful. We can't run in. We have this big awareness. We want to have some support on our sides and maybe in our front. We're sitting sort of behind the front line, so we can take some hits or have less health because we're not taking as many hits in.
Yeah.
It was interesting to have a swift and an action ability on a champion. That was the first time we kind of had 2 attack abilities, which
Yeah.
some people thought was limiting. Some people thought like there wasn't really. Again, I mean, Erica kind of has this like, oh, I can bring out tigers, so I'm kind of a summoner, but I have all this aura, so I could play all spells if I wanted to and still have access to 1 summon.
Yeah.
Whereas Tashir was like, well, I only have attacks, so the only thing I'm doing is attacking. But not being able to attack things directly in front or directly to the side, you had to play some creatures, or you had to play some type of summon or some way to help, either be alterations or some way to prevent just getting swarmed in, right?
Yeah.
Tashir does have that problem of getting trapped. If you keep backing up or keep trying to avoid, you can get into a corner, and then it's really difficult to get out of that corner. Um,
Yes. Yeah. Agreed. I've only just recently gotten onto the Tashir train. I just recently built my first Tashir deck. But just from the raw stats, I really love what you can do with Tashir. I like I love the double energy reduction with yellow because obviously that makes bolt shot really easy to play if people get too close on you. It's fun to have that weird, almost or unusual awareness, I find, because so many things are usually they just hit the square in front. And it's kind of neat where I've seen other players who play Tashir sometimes slip up and forget, oh, I can't actually hit because you're so used to playing with other champions as well, and
right.
they're right in front. So it's a fun little gotcha moment every now and then where either when I was playing it, I'd forget, or somebody else's like my good friend Brian from Imperial Pulse, he plays Tashir a fair bit, and every now and then you'll get up close, and I'd be like, "Oh no, I forgot. I should have moved instead of started casting things." And but yeah, I really enjoy Tashir. I've had a lot of fun games with that champion, and that's one that I could definitely see being fun to tweak a bit. Not necessarily just because of the fact that I needed improvement, but just I would like to see a new version of Tashir, just because it would be fun to play a new version of Tashir.
Right. Yeah. I do really like, I mean, Origins, the champions in Origins were kind of, you could really definitely see like, okay, we're starting to move away from sort of a vanilla 2 damage forward awareness champion into a bit more, let's explore the awareness space
Mhm. Yeah.
with champions. And I think Tashir really showed we can have different types of awarenesses, and we can do, we can leave them we can leave. That's a great point, actually, Hassan. That Malik actually had 2 attack abilities. I forget about that. Everyone's that Malik did have 2 attack abilities, so I apologize. Tashir was not the first one, but Malik was technically. Um,
If JC was here, he would
who
have corrected
plays?
you too, because we know how much JC
Yeah,
loves Malik.
who plays Malik? Um, So I really liked the exploration into like looking at awarenesses and how we can use them, and how this awareness really fits with Tashir as an archer and as sort of a ranger style. And for me, it kind of opened the door looking at this and being like, well, we could definitely lean into, you know, champions having a kind of like a class system where like this is our summoner, or this is our fighter, this is our ranger, this is our cleric, this is our whatever style, right? And then looking at that and being like, okay, well, if I'm gonna make a new archer or a new ranger, how how do I make that awareness fit that? If I'm gonna be a big, heavy armored champion that's gonna swing some type of weapon, am I as mobile? Am I as able to act in multiple directions, or am I more just in the front type of style? So I really like Tashir, and I think it's pretty cool champion.
Agreed. Time to move on to the next two, or is there any
Sure.
final thoughts on these two before we go?
I mean, Tashir definitely had the benefit of having a couple of great range tools by the time Tashir came out. So we know a bolt shot. We know Wind Slash was out, right? Called Shot came out. There's a couple other ranged, like Mythical Spear, if you played it with those in the back in the day, or a couple other spells that really leaned into sort of the I'm going to be able to hit you from far away. And then I think Tashir really benefited from Ajna Tigers with that 2 energy reduction, being able to protect sort of the in close area, and created a very cool style of deck. So.
Well, Jeremy's got an interesting question for you. Do you have any comments on Kayun switching to this affiliation setup from the Bella Maxon?
Yeah, I
Did
think they were
you
actually going there next, right?
did you design Kayun? Was that one of your cards originally, or
So Kai was actually directly from the choice that we made to move um, Kun into a different affiliation.
okay?
Um, so that was more of what we were like. I remember one of the meetings we were like, "Hey, we're gonna move Kun." Kind of playing along that metamorphosis. Nothing is safe. Everything is changing. Kind of sort of like outside of the outside of the box thinking on the set. So when that was presented, looking at what we could do, we definitely I looked at it as an option to bring out sort of yeah, this version. I don't want to give too much away because the card hasn't been spoiled, but Kayun is able to be directly linked to another card that hasn't really come out yet, but that's sort of the basis of kind of where that idea of the of Kayun's sort of flame wings and having this flaming spear and having sort of this ashen sort of look to his body and all that. So
So something to look forward to learning more about in the future.
Mhm. So one of the things that benefited from moving Kun into Bellum and Thymos was always the movement sort of tech. He always had tons of movement and that energy. So having Kai move into that with that movement ability really sort of fit really well. The other thing was it removed access to dedicated studies and Epiphany, and cards were allowed you to draw. Kayun was also, or sorry, Kun. Oh boy, Kun was also famously utilized to basically making your tsunamis act like swift abilities,
Yeah.
because you got to move twice and still play the tsunami, which became very hard to run away from, very hard to overcome. My good friend Sid took Kun to the championship, won for all those reasons, right? A lot of damage, a lot of filtering, and you kind of just move in, close out the game, and your opponent can't really get away. So one of the benefits of moving them is you don't have necessarily that type of gameplay. The other part is the sort of thematics with the fiery wings, and allowed us to give another option to the fighter style inside of this color pool. So when we were discussing what do we bring back first, we looked at the Rays champions as sort of the ones that could use, just happened, like Odara and Erica were the two that were the most prevalent people wanted to come back. So we kind of looked at all of the Rays ones. And so that's where kind of Kun came up, and then the suggestion of moving it, opening up the door that other champions could move affiliations if we wanted to,
Hmm.
or if we felt it was necessary. And this one definitely, I think there's some benefit to it. Most of the stats are the same, so it was mostly just a straight movement. We also knew that we were going to be changing the flight rules at that point, so I wasn't too afraid of having the flight in red. Yes, there is some synergy with Stampeding Force I mean, that's something for us to watch out and look for. Um, because of the flight rules, I don't think it's going to work as effectively as initially people thought. But that's also for me to be proven wrong, and for us to adjust if we need to. So we'll be watching out for that. But I'm definitely excited. I really like Kayun's sort of design, the flaming spear, the flaming wings. All of that are really really cool. So
Agreed.
Erica, was another one that got the updated. So you can kind of see where, at least for tonight, we're focusing on. These are all the two new Thymos and Bellum champions are both sort of either adjustments champions, they're not brand new, but you can see sort of the perspective that the design team has and development team has with like when we're updating things or we're shifting things over. So Kuhn was pretty much anything we did to Kuhn other than shifting the colors would have been considered a nerf, either less health, less aura, or removal of dash. It's
Hmm.
kind of the only things on the table. So not wanting to necessarily nerf things that don't need to be nerfed, if we could, allowed us to also justify moving it over. And then Erica, you can see what happens if we get a chance to buff something. So we didn't touch the aura, which I think is definitely Erica's style. The 20 health, I think, is going to be fantastic. I know it's only 2 points, but I think it's going to really help establish Erica, giving the player playing Erica a little bit more confidence to advance up, maybe drop some summons, um, maybe have a couple of chances to attack at the end game. So I'm excited to see what people do with that. And then we drop the aura mount on the now wolf to line up better with the lore that we were doing.
Right.
So I know we haven't spoiled Dusk Wolf yet. I think it's coming soon,
Yeah,
but
it's been set aside for a third party spoiler. So some lucky content creator out there is going to get to see it before everybody else, and then they're going to let everybody else in on the really cool secret. So it's coming.
yes. So if going forward, any adjusted champion is going to have a subtitle. So the old version of that champion will still be playable because it is a different version of that champion until we deem that it's not necessary or something's just too powerful or a rotation or whatever sort of balancing things we have to do. But don't feel free to play your Ericas with your Baihus if you want. Although I think once you see what Dusk Wolf does and how it's a slightly different take on Erica, I think people will like it. I hope people will like it.
Yeah, that's the goal, right? To make a better version that's even more exciting. But as you say, if people want to keep playing the original Erica, there's no reason not to. With it having a different name, then it still works just the way it was printed before. You can create all your Baihus and have lots of fun.
Yeah, and I think that goes for all champions that kind of get buffed. If you like the older version, then by all means play that. We are increasing or buffing those champions for a reason that we feel is getting more in line with where champions are headed. Um, the reverse doesn't work though, right? If we nerf something, then obviously playing the busted or the too strong version would probably be out for only in casual play, but that would be decided if we ever get around to nerfing our champion. Um,
Damien's just asking quickly in the chat if you missed the spoiler. I'm just going to put it back up on the screen for a second, if you don't mind, Will, just since we've had a lot of people join since the early part of the episode where we revealed the spoiler. So I'll have this Erica and Kayun back up on the screen in just a moment. But for now,
I'm not
Will,
sure we actually did review the spoiler yet, did we?
I thought we did right at the start, did we not?
I don't think we did. I think I just started talking and then talked
Oh,
everybody's ear off.
oh yeah, maybe we didn't reveal it. I totally thought we did, but maybe we didn't. All right, well, Will, then
There
why
we
don't you?
go. The spoiler.
Yeah, go ahead, Will, and talk us through water memory.
All right. So here we go. Water memory. This is an Axon card. It's a technique. It is a water technique. So that is going to be something going forward where techniques and spells will be linked to certain elements.
Yep.
This is a swift ability. It's a water attack 3. We are 7 chi on this, so that is a lot lower damage than what we will be used to. But it is a split cost of 3 energy and 8 aura, so very cheap if you have a higher energy reduction. So something like Oni will be able to utilize just the 8 aura on this. But
because he has triple energy reduction, which I'm
that's
so
right.
excited about.
Also, this card works with Oni because of Oni's ability to sort of move around and then rotate. Oni can always utilize this awareness, so it's definitely a build around card, something that was designed for with Oni in mind.
Mm-hmm.
But the more maybe the more interesting thing, or maybe the one that will get more talking going around, is the new triggered ability that's going to be called Amplify. So the trigger is going to be amplifies are going to be immediate trigger abilities, and it's going to be something that I've always thought would work really well in Genesis. Is this idea of, since we have multiple versions of cards and we can have any number of cards that we want, having this ability to increase or to amplify the spells that we play, or amplify the techniques by dumping cards of a particular variety, you can go in for some bigger, splashier plays, right? So I'm going to
Splashy on a water memory card. Good pun.
play, maybe hurt myself in the long run, but right now I have this great opportunity to do this, so I'm going to pay a little bit more to get, an immediate benefit. So it's an immediate trigger, so you're doing it right away, so you can't get any response to the trigger. They can still respond to the actual water attack, so you do have to watch out for that. So for this one, Amplify is reading it like this. So when water memory is played, so when you play it, you may put any number of water cards from your thoughts into your memories. So basically discard, but it's not going to count as discard to get around all those tricky bonus benefiting cards for discarding, looking at like mental dagger, stuff like that, which may not be a water card, but
you would have to have the word discard actually as part of the text for it to be considered discarding.
right.
Yeah.
For each card, so each water card in this case, put into your memories this way, you may gain 1 health or put a card from your memories on top of your timeline. So this is going to be an interesting way to sort of, I'm going to pay, so you may want to not have an energy reduction with this. Pay a couple energy. Oh, look, there's that card I could really use. I need that for next turn. I'm going to pay another card. I'm going to take that card from my memories, put it back on top of my timeline. Hopefully I can draw it at the beginning of the next round. So this is the first instance of having some memories back to timeline sort of mechanics. But you may not always want to do that. I think it's exciting.
Yeah, I think that's very exciting.
But you may not always want to, so we gave you another option of gaining a little bit of health. You don't have to pay this. It is a may. You never have to amplify if you don't want to. I think in the late game, this is something that's going to be, I pull this off the top, and I have a tsunami that I can't pay for, but I can still play this. I can then, pump it in and get a couple more. Dump this card that I can't play, but then I also get to gain some benefit from that. So I think the Amplify is going to be potentially an ability that we see come and go from set to set. So
I think in this case, that could be a really powerful ability to have, to basically get a card you can't play out of your hand, and then put something that you really need back on top of your deck for the next round. I think that alone pretty much justifies the 7 chi. Like that could be a save your life at the end of the game kind of card to turn something unusable into something that might win you the game.
And something to remember too is that these cards go through testing, so all these numbers that we're seeing, all those are little knobs that we can adjust, right? So this card may have been tested a little bit lower chi, may have been tested more damage. With this ability being one of the first times where we're entering into this world of, let's have fun with our memories and bring it back. Hence water memory is. We need to play it a little bit safe. We need to maybe put this at a 7 chi, so we can't jam a whole bunch of them. We can still put a lot in,
Yeah.
But that way we're not going. There's not a 5G card, right? Or it's not a 4G card. We're kind of being very thoughtful where we present some of these new things. So I hope people enjoy Amplify. I know I definitely enjoyed it in testing with this one as well as some other um, Amplify cards that will be making its way out. But Water Memory was really cool. I really enjoyed it in Oni. A couple other. There's another one. I think I even played it in Bazin because it's the alternate awareness of where the summons are, so you can kind of like force the summons to come in, and you can kind of do this. It was interesting, but it's going to be I think it's going to be a fun card for people to play. So
I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the amplify mechanic, just in general. It's the kind of mechanic that appeals to me. I like those kind of the opportunities that's going to give you during games, flexibility especially. So
flexibility, because I think those who have played Genesis a few times have found, there comes a time. Yes, it's really exciting at the beginning. You have limited resources, and then as time ticks down, you have less resources, which is part of the game. You have to decide when to use your resources. But I think it's interesting to have a few abilities that let you to sort of have another outlet or another chance to be flexible when your resources are low, to kind of keep that momentum going. Because one of the things that can happen from time to time is that Genesis you can get to a point where you're just like, my champion hits you, okay, my champion hits you, and you kind of just like, okay, I'm gonna hit you, and there's like you have no resources left, but you're both still at like 10 health, and
and
you're
it
trying to
drags
like,
on. Yeah.
oh, okay, I'm gonna hit you, okay, I'm gonna hit you, and you're just sort of slapping each other back and forth. So what does the chat think about Amplify? I think we have a few. Dump a water strike and get an HE card. Interesting. Yeah. Pay HE to get a water strike, depending on what you need.
Yeah, both ways,
Definitely
right? Yeah.
versatile. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the awareness, like Stephen Penn says in the chat. Great for a fighter. When you want to do
Yes.
that 3 damage, like having 4 different options for where to put it, that's great at swift speed. So
And for those who are, well, you put the card back on top. Now that card's on top, you still have to be careful what energy costs you pay, right? Because that's going to go back
right.
into your memories again. So your timing of this is going to be interesting too, right? So yes, you have a chance to have a powerful effect, but you have to sequence it correctly. So it's definitely going to be a thinking ability. When do I play this, or how do I best use this? So
Yeah, and
cool.
that's what I think sometimes that's what makes a card even better is if it's not just on autopilot, you play it and it does something, but like you have to strategize a bit so that people won't expect you to do it because they won't have
Mhm,
thought of, oh, that's smart. That's why they didn't pay any energy this turn because I get you. So I love
mhm.
those because those are the times when you really when you feel good about yourself after when you're like, I had to time that just right and it worked out just right. So
Yeah, I think that goes for. I mean, we talked about a perspective of champions tonight, and we talked about this new card, and um, I think we mentioned bolt shot a lot because we were in Bellum, but bolt shot is sort of the opposite of this, right? You run up, you play your bolt shot, it's going to hit something.
mhm.
It really can't miss unless everything moves out of the way, right? It is the least amount of thinking you need to play, unless you're in like a weird bolt shot versus bolt shot matchup where it's like, okay, how many bolt shots are on the stack, and where's all that damage going?
Yeah.
Um, Whereas something like this, I think, if it shows anything about where Edge of Exile is taking the game, it's having powerful effects at higher chi with some versatile, gameplay set, a way to play it, or having an ability to gain something back. It's, it's something that is really different. It's not always going to be, I walk up, I play a big spell, and I win game, right? That's not saying that that's what it was. Not saying that's what certain cards are or how they were designed. It's just there is we're putting in an extra to try to like really make things feel like like as Steven said, like this is very much um a fighter's card, right? Like so,
Hmm.
like yes, I'm sure some mages will try to play this, but this will feel better, hopefully, inside that fighter archetype.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna have a great home in some fighter decks for sure.
What is he? What do we have here? Steven says maybe it's creating the possibility to create champions that are skill focused, meaning you could put multiple skill cards in your deck and still get use out of skill cards that don't stack. Yeah, definitely an interesting perspective. All right.
All right. Well, that was enjoyable to hear your thought process on how some champions have evolved. What do you think? Maybe next time, maybe next week, we could take a look at some maybe a different color pairing and get your thoughts
I
on
think
some of
so.
that. On
I think Bellum was the probably the least amount of advancing or least amount of you know new perspective because it was more about changing. It's kind
yeah,
of a good place to start, but um, I think Bellum and Thymos have a lot of great things coming when they have a lot of great cards that haven't been explored.
yeah.
Um, and so I think, yeah, I like starting here, and then we have a bunch of color pairings plus a lot of phage to go through as we have a whole bunch of phage champions
Hmm.
now.
I'll be
And
fascinated to
yeah,
hear what you think about Axon. That's probably the one I'm the most interested to hear your thoughts on, I think.
yeah, okay. Well, let's go Axon next time. We'll do Axon. Hmm. Maybe we should do Axon Thymos.
Sure, that'd be fun. I yeah, I look forward to that. That'll be good. Nice. We'll try and have another spoiler next week and
Sure.
some more stuff to talk about. Oh, I before we wind up the stream, I just have a couple thoughts to get out there to people watching at home. I haven't seen him chat tonight, so I don't think he's actually here on the live stream. But to address Shockwave, because you might remember last week Shockwave was talking about how he doesn't have any stores in the Oakville area currently that are carrying Genesis.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I had said last week on the live stream that I was going to reach out to local game stores in the area, and I did do that today. I sent emails to three stores I could find in the Oakville area, including the one specifically he said is close to him. So I sent emails to them to reach out, offering to do some free learn to play events and demo days and stuff like that to try and give these stores a chance to introduce Genesis to their player base at like no cost to them. We'll come down, do all the work, teach people stuff, give people stuff, and have a lot of fun. And then I followed that up because then I was like, well, I've got my email browser open anyway. I picked like 15 other random game stores all across Ontario and emailed them as well today too. So I'm trying to get the message out to a lot of stores that maybe I have never directly interacted with before, that hey, we've been around since 2017, we got this really great thing going and we want to help you succeed with it. So I'm doing my best to I'm gonna this week keep up with that and send some more emails to some more stores trying to get some learn to play demo days and things like that going so stores can try the game with the people with their customers in person. And if anybody watching has a request for any stores that in your areas that you want to make sure that I reach out to, just you can let me know. Either you can put something in the comments or you could send us an email. I've just put our email up at the top of the screen, hello@edgeofexile.com. And if you have any stores out there, anybody watching that you really want us to try and approach to try and do some fun free events to get Genesis started in your area, let us know and we will reach out to them. Another thing that I wanted to share with people is that the big pallets of product going to the States are making their way. I actually got a phone call today from customs out in British Columbia. They needed a little bit of paperwork. The driver had most of the paperwork, but there was something they didn't have. So I got that to them today. So I think it's actually in the process of crossing the border into the States either today or tomorrow. So that's exciting that that's making progress. And indie pro games in the United States should have all their stuff very soon in a matter of just days, which I'm excited about, especially because, again, that's the
Mhm.
first time that customers and players in the United States are going to be able to have access to easily buy Origins booster boxes and Gelara Second Edition, because those products aren't carried yet by Southern Hobby. So it's exciting that all those things are going to be available for the States. So that's some good progress that we're making there. We are, what else have we got going on? Oh, it's been a good week. We've got a lot of stuff done.
Mhm.
I'm blanking on it now. I had another cool thing I wanted to share, but anyways, we're making lots of great progress. Lots of cool things are going on. We're reaching out to a lot of stores, growing the community. We do have an open house demo deck day event set already for the new Muskoka cards and collectibles. That's going to be opening in about 2 weeks in Bracebridge. They're going to be open for 4 weeks, and then we're going to go up there on a weekend and teach everybody up there how to play Genesis because they've already committed to carrying product before they even open. So that's exciting that
Wow.
we're starting to get stores before they even open the doors. Will that's great. Like it, the
What
system is
weekend is
working.
that? What weekend are
Uh,
you going on?
it's in July. It's either it whatever the Sunday is. It will either be the 14th or the 15th. I can check on the computer calendar here. In July, it falls on the 14th is a Sunday. So that's the day that will be up. Or is that June that I looked at? What I just looked at? I looked at June. So July is also the 14th. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So Sunday, the 14th in July, we're going to be up in Bracebridge, which of course is that cool little country picturesque town that has the Santa's Village theme park and all that cool stuff up there. So you can
Yeah.
take a ride on Santa's sleigh, ride a roller coaster, and play some Genesis all afternoon in a really cool store. Lots of cool things going on, which I'm excited about, and good news happening. So
Yeah. Awesome. Well, hopefully people enjoyed the spoiler. The perspective on the Bellum and Thymos champions. We'll be back with more champions to go. We have a whole bunch to get through as we kind of fill in some time with some spoilers and as we, yeah, kind of do this champion perspective as
so you
a
know what else
sort
we
of
have
mini
to
series.
do before we finish tonight, Will? We have to do the Wheel of Names for this episode that we're in right
Right.
now.
I
So
thought we already done it, but I guess that was last week.
that was last week. So now we got to give out a prize for the people who have joined in the chat tonight. So if you're watching right now and you haven't said anything in the chat yet, and you'd like a chance to win a booster pack of Invasion, which is currently the most recent set of Genesis cards, all you got to do is say hello or whatever you feel like in the chat, and I'm going to read out the list of names of people I already have. If you have commented and I've somehow missed adding you, please feel free to correct me and make sure that we get you added. But tonight, so far, our commenters during tonight's live stream have been Alana, which is actually Ryan, and then Alana, not Alana. Oh my God, I suck. Cardboard Cohorts, Cardboard Flesh and Blood, Ed Tuck, Eric L, David C, Jeremy H, Austin Q, who's awesome, by the way, Damian C, Jason G, and Stephen P. Those are the names of the people that I've seen in the chat tonight. I'm just gonna double check myself on my phone to make sure I didn't miss anybody, but I think that's everybody. So yeah. So if anybody wants a chance to win tonight, this is it. This is final call. Final call to say hello in the chat, and you could win yourself theoretically a booster pack of Invasion tonight. And of course, all the prizes that people win watching our live streams, we send out at our cost, not your cost. You get stuff just mailed to your house or your local game store, all free of charge. So yeah, I think that's about it. I'm not seeing anybody else chatting.
No
So
one's been jumping in yet, so
what we're going to do here is we're going to switch over to this wheel of names again. And the wheel of names, let me check on the screen. Yep, it has been updated with all the new names. That's perfect. I'm going to do what Jeff always did. We're going to shuffle it up a couple times first here just to get extra random. There we go. We see all the names changing on the screen. And now we're going to click the wheel and see who is going to win the prize for tuning in tonight. Oh ho ho! Eric L. Congratulations, Eric L. You are tonight's winner. If you're still in the chat, please, Eric L, send us a message or an email if you haven't already won before. I don't remember if we have your contact info, so just to be safe, if you haven't won before, please shoot us a message. You'll see the email is on the screen there. Hello at edgeofexile.com, and we will get that sent to you.
congrats.
Yes, congratulations. Now then, Will, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you for your insight tonight. It's fascinating to hear your thoughts on the. Oh, good. Eric was still here, so he knows that he won. That's great. It's been fascinating to hear your thoughts and everything. That's awesome. I very much look forward to next week. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on Axon. I think that's going to be a fun stream to hear. And then thanks everybody for tuning in. Also, like I mentioned earlier tonight, we're now starting to do these live streams also on our Twitch channel. If you haven't followed Genesis over on Twitch, I'd recommend going over there. The account channel is called Genesis BoC, all just one word. Look us up on Twitch, send us a follow, like, subscribe, whatever the word is on Twitch there, and help us grow the channel over there. I'm going to start doing I'm actually going to start my own personal Twitch channel as well. I've been thinking I want to do something fun where I just kind of chat with people on my own time about stuff and like what it's like working on your favorite card game in the world because it's pretty surreal. So I'm just going to have some casual chats on my own free time every now and then with people on Twitch, letting them know how weird and cool and surreal it is to be involved in your favorite card game because it is a lot of fun. That's all
Mm.
I got for tonight. Anything you'd like to say before we close out the show?
No, I think tune in next time to see what we get into and discuss next week.
Right on. Same champion time, same champion channel. Take care, everybody. Have a great night, and thanks for
Bye.
tuning in. Bye bye.